Let's go.
All right. So this, again, the Pete Rose conversation we cut short. This one we may have to cut short. Okay. We're just gonna let it go. We're gonna let it flow. I am gonna get Kevin's first. I'm gonna get Kevin's Mount Rushmore of the Reds. Okay, Pete Rose is one of them. All right.
Of course. Barry Larkin would be one of them.
Mm.
I would give that to him.
Okay.
He deserves it.
Okay.
And then you get into the big red machine, Joe Morgan. How do you say no to Joe Morgan, right? How do you say no to him? So after him, then Johnny Bench has to be the last one. It's hard not to, and you can change these around from like Tony Perez or George Foster or whatever you want to change them around to, but they're always going to be those players. It's funny that Larkin is the only, and I want to say modern day because it was the 90s, but
yeah.
player that I think of because the Reds kind of went to shit for they still are in the shitter, but he's the only one that I would include.
Your list is a solid list, except for one glaring.
Well, it's the accurate. It's actually
glaring freaking omission. So we're gonna see what Scott has. I'm a little bit in shock now. I'll be really shocked if Scott doesn't have what. Okay, go ahead, Scott. What do you have?
Okay, so I've got two of the same as he does. I've got Johnny Bench and Barry Larkin.
Ooh, that's not where I thought you were going, Scott.
Because he's smarter than you.
I've also got, and here's the thing. I went with a number of things. I went with like my favorite players I remember playing, and like maybe different eras over the past half century. So I got Johnny Bench. I've got Barry Larkin. I've got Joey Votto.
Joey Votto!
And I've got Frank Robinson.
You have 4 or 5.
That's
fair.
5. That's fair. Frank Robinson's fair.
That's 4.
So you have Morgan, Larkin, Bench, and Robinson. Is that right?
No, I didn't say Morgan.
Oh, you didn't say Morgan. Wow. No. You don't have Joe Morgan.
You could put Kaluski in there too. You could put Ted Kaluski.
Shut up, Kevin.
So you could put him in there. He's one of the greatest of all time.
No, he's not.
Yeah, Ted Kaluski was you said Ted Kaluski, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had him on my all-time lineup as one of my first baseman options too, for sure. Like I said, to me, this was when I think of the Reds, I think of Frank Robinson, Johnny Bench is my all-time favorite player, and then Barry Larkin, one of the greatest Reds of all, and then I think modern day wise, Joey Votto. I think he's got the numbers to prove it.
God, I sorry. I'm so for Mitch now that I just can't even.
Albert Bell's not on the list.
Oh, sorry. You don't have Morgan. So I'm missing somebody. Hold on. Votto. Yeah, Votto. Jesus. You're not taking Hall of Famers in front of Joey Votto. Okay.
Joey Votto will be a Hall of Famer. Guarantee it.
He's a borderline Hall of Famer, and only because it's watered down. You're saying that you're giving Joey Votto over Joe Morgan.
I said it's a combination of things for me. It's with my heart, it's with different eras, and I think if you look over the last half century, those are 4 of the greatest Reds that have ever been there.
So is half century now not include the Reds machine, their big red machine? I don't know how
going back to the big red machine on till today.
I don't know how you don't put Joe Morgan on that list. I'm sorry, Scott. I understand you liking Joey Votto, and I do think he'll get in, but only he'll get in because the Hall of Fame is what it is now. Joe Morgan to be on this list is probably the most shocking thing I've seen in any show I've done so far. And I've said some shocking stuff. I like Joey Votto, and I think he'd be 5th or 6th on this list, worthy of consideration. But in front of Joe Morgan, It's interesting that you both put Barry Larkin on this list. So you did not put Pete Rose on this list, Scott.
No, because I don't think that Pete Rose is. I love Pete Rose for what he did and who he was, and obviously he's the hit king. Those are the things right there. But if I had to pick 4 players to start my team with, these are the 4 players I would start with.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, again, Pete Rose, as great as he was, I'm not saying he was a good player, a very good player for a very long time. He was never a great player. He was never the best player. He was shut up, Kevin. He was never the best team on any team. The Expos, the Phillies. He was never the best player on any team he ever played for. And I mean, yeah, I'm shocked. I didn't think you guys were going that for Kevin. I mean, your list is,
the best. It's the answer key. Just put that down. That's the right answer.
Bench and Morgan, again, are no-brainers as far as I'm concerned. I did not go Pete Rose as well. But how in the hell you don't have Frank Robinson on this list is insane.
More because he's before my time, not because he's not one of the greatest. He's before my time. That's why.
He's arguably one of the top 10 players in the history of baseball.
9 behind Pete Rose, of course.
Yes, he went to the Orioles after that, but he played longer for the Reds. He won the Triple Crown the year he got traded. But still, he had his Reds career alone, hands down, the greatest Reds career of all time. Nothing's even close.
So you basically agree with me except for one guy.
Well, yeah, Robinson instead of Rose. And it did come down to, for me, it came down to Larkin or Rose. It came down to Larkin or Rose for me. And so I took a deep dive into the numbers between the two. And again, you take away those longevity records, Barry Larkin's numbers are better. And Pete Rose was a shitty defensive player everywhere he went. His major league average for his career, defensive WAR, is -4. He was not a good defensive player. Yeah, he played all those positions, and it did give managers flexibility and everything else. But he was a subpar defensive player his entire career.
Typical Browns fan.
You roll your eyes all you want to. It's true. The stats are the stats. He was never known for his defensive prowess.
So Zay,
yeah.
If you're gonna go stats, Joey Votto, when he's done, is gonna have more home runs, more RBIs, more hits, and a better on-base percentage than Joe Morgan in his career.
When he's done, the done is close.
He's already blown past him in home runs.
You're right, but you have to take in consideration the era he played in. Joey Votto's in an offensive era. You have to take the adjusted OPS that adjusts for those things because nobody was sitting. Again, Hank Aaron never hit 40 home runs. He's 755. He never hit over 40 home runs. So you have to take in consideration the time they played in. You can't tell me that some of these players, what these numbers would have been for players like Joe Morgan and Johnny Bench if they played in today's game. How many home runs would they hit? How many RBIs would they hit? Again, I know it's an impossible conversation, and you can't just take stats on stats. But you have to factor in some of those things. Again, when you take care of especially the way back players, the pitchers, as Christy Mathewson's and all those players, it's hard. It's impossible, but you have to take in consideration some of that, and you have to also take in consideration where they were considered in their era. If you put Ty Cobb on the Yankees right now, Ty Cobb probably would have been Ty Cobb and still probably would have been the best overall player of all time. He's another one that might be in the list of Willie Mays and Ty Cobb as best player of all time. Those players are probably transcendent, but what'd you say?
But the thing about like a Ty Cobb, when we talk about eras, the thing about a Ty Cobb is what did he do? He was the dirtiest fucking player in the history today. Back then, he just played baseball. I mean, he was even considered dirty in his time. He would try to cripple you. He would try to take your knee out. Today, there'd be lawsuits and every other thing about it. And it's like,
but he wouldn't have done the same things because the rules are different. You can't, I agree with you. Everybody knows he was the dirtiest player of all time. But he couldn't come in spikes high.
But that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that there's a guy that existed in this time period and then another guy that existed in this time period. And the rules are completely different between those two eras, right? I mean, this was an era when if you looked at a guy funny, they'd throw at your head and try to end your career, and they didn't wear batting helmets, you know?
Right.
And now, God forbid, if you get a ball inside, people are upset about it, you know? Look at Nolan Ryan. I mean, even Nolan Ryan, when you think about him, he's inside. He's like, you're on my plate. I'm putting it right in your ear.
Yep.
Right. And, you know, the batters got up and they played. Today it would be, oh, my God, we're going to suspend you for 7 years and do everything bad to you.
Yeah, that's what, you know, I agree. It's an impossible task, and ESPN's list is impossible. But there's some things that just, you know, again, you take in consideration all that. And, you know, again, you can't put Pedro Martinez as the second best pitcher of all time, regardless
not
of
even close. He's not even close. He's not in the top 10, I wouldn't.
No. I mean, I think he's close to that, but I wouldn't put him in it. But, you know, anyway, so, yeah, I mean, again, baseball's an interesting argument. And I knew when we got to the Mount Rushmore, I'm shocked. And I get what you're saying about Votto. And he very well, I said earlier in the show, I think he very well may get in. In my mind, is he a Hall of Famer? No. I think there's a lot of players that have been introduced in the last 20 years that aren't Hall of Famers. Robin Yount's, yes, they're in. But there's a lot of like players that are marginal players, not marginal, but good players for a long time that get in. And I think Joey Votto's one of those players. And again, not that he's not a great player. He's meant a lot to the city of Cincinnati. Been with him his whole career, which I value. But in my mind, is he a Hall of Famer? No. Will he get in? Probably yes. In my mind, it came down to Larkin or Rose. And
you chose wrong.
Did I? I want to.
It's not wrong. I mean, I didn't. Only conversation with Robinson was because it was just. I was doing my lifetime, I guess, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm assuming that's the case because Robinson is. Well,